So did Democrats prove this has nothing to do with politics and that the shutdown is only about their hatred of the president? Joining me now, former White House press secretary and senior advisor and spokesman for America First Action Super PAC, Sean Spicer, is back in action. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be back.
It's cold here. You're very fortunate that you are not here, but let's talk a little bit about Nancy Pelosi. I've said this before. I will say it over and over and over again. Nancy Pelosi is the kind of person who assumes she's always going to have strong labor support. A lot of these people who are displaced right now and about to not receive their second paycheck, and they are really hurting. Many of them are a part of a big federal workers union that sued in 2013 to not only get back pay, but to double that back pay for the harm caused by the last big shutdown. Isn't that dumb?
Yeah, and look, I think that she might have overestimated her hand in this particular case. The president made a good faith effort on Saturday, and I think even any objective person would admit that his extension of both DACA and TPS, the temporary protective status, was a good faith effort. And while that might be the last bid, the idea that before the last words were out of the president's mouth, they'd already rejected out of hand, really shows you that they weren't interested in whatever he said. This to them is truly a political issue. But I think that you're right that the base that she counts on is going to start to erode because they're going to say, hey, he's at least engaging. He's doing something to get to a solution, and you've done nothing. That's that. And so I think they're going to see some erosion on not just between her, but of her members. And I think
when does that happen? When does this actually hurt Democrats? And not just some theoretical in 2020, it might cause some pain and come back to haunt them. But when do the dreamers and the federal workers who are going unpaid for yet another pay cycle, when do they start to train their ire on Democratic leadership?
You know, that's a great question. I think, well, you know, you do a good job of asking the questions. I think that we'll see a lot in the Senate debate this week. If the Republicans play their cards right and articulate what's at stake and the offer that was made, I think you could see some erosion. You've already seen Joe Manchin from West Virginia said he's open to discussing this further. If the Republicans are able to pick up a handful of Democrats and get to that, get to a point where there's erosion in that base as it heads back over the House, that's a problem. If the Democrats hold firm in the Senate...
But you know what Nancy Pelosi does to people who thwart her whims. And she denies them committee posts. And,
there were 16 folks that... that said that they were adamantly unwilling to ever vote for it, and they all did because she either paid them off with a committee slot, a pet project, some funding. She knows how to get what she wants, and very few of these people are willing to cross her because they just saw what she just did to maintain power in the speakership. So I get it, but what I think changes the demographic, not just for those members, but for the public at large, is if the debate shifts over the next few days as the Senate starts to talk about this. If Senate Democrats are obstinate in meeting the president halfway, or even 20 or 30% halfway, closer to halfway, then I think that people are going to realize that they don't really actually want a solution. And once that becomes obvious, then the emperor has no clothes, because the Democrats haven't looked to counteroffer anything the president said.
Well, and I want to pick it up there, because there are a lot of people on the right who feel like the president has offered too much. And some of the language that he's used in terms of DACA and the Dreamers and even TPS, it sounds like amnesty. And I think that there will be a little bit of collapse in his base if they feel like he capitulates anymore, because the Democrats are trying to say that he's headstrong and he's so stubborn, there's no way he's going to give, when actually he's given them not only a bunch of stuff that they want, but in terms of the wall, he has compartmentalized it into what they've already agreed to. So if he gives in any further, he really has a hard time with part of his own party.
Right, and see, this is the rub here, which you had just identified, which is 54 Democrats in 2013 voted for much more than what they're so-called opposed to now. So the idea that we're having this debate is truly a false one, right? The idea that this is not something that they are opposed to and we're trying to figure out where the middle ground is. This is something what the president has put forward in the first place is something that all 54 Democrats under Barack Obama's administration, when he was president, voted for. And so this idea that somehow they're against it and this is a moral dilemma is absolutely ridiculous on its face.
Yes, I agree with that, and I think there's so much common ground that it's really going to be up to Joe Manchin and Lindsey Graham to figure it out, and then that will signal to the party maybe, but there's so many people who are so hell-bent in the Senate on making a name for themselves for 2020. Amy Klobuchar, Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, that they will do whatever it takes and try and win at all costs on this issue. Meantime, they're sacrificing a really critical part of their base. So I think we're closer to an end than we were last week. How much more time do you think we've got in the shutdown?
I think you're going to find out Tuesday. If Democrats actually start engaging in a meaningful way, that's a very positive sign. If they don't, I mean, I honestly could think this could drag on for a month or two at this point. That's not something that I would have ever guessed had you asked me the same question in December. We are in an entirely new dynamic where both sides are so entrenched to their bases that the idea of finding this, quote, common ground is just somewhat elusive at this point. And I really do think that it could potentially go on for at least another month and potentially two.
The common ground is a jackalope. Sean Spicer, thank you so much.